All right, Daily Ticker Time on a Wednesday, brought to you as always by our good friends at Pelican Brewing. Their new Beak Breaker Double IPA. Take a game break with bold hops, a crisp finish, and a brew that never misses. Pelican Brewing, independent and always on point. The Big Ten tournament, did it begin yesterday? Does it begin today? I don't know, when all these lower seeds start playing. I know Oregon plays tomorrow, and it's soon to be underway.
When does Washington play?
I don't believe they're in the field this year, Bob. I don't believe they quite made it. Which then leads me to the question, is Washington good at any sport right now? I know they had a Disney movie in rowing. DeBoer's daughter still plays for the softball team. That's about all I got on their softball team. We'll look that up. We'll get back to it. Joining us now is our good friend, Tyson Alger, i5Quarter, i5quarter.com.
12th in the Big Ten in basketball, so not ladies hoops.
That's not very good. You can give him a follow on Twitter, at Tyson Alger. Tyson, good morning to you. It's been a weird year for Oregon basketball. It went from Dana Altman's aligning Rubik's Cubes early in the season, 16-3. Look out, here they come. Lose 5 in a row, fire Dana Altman. This guy's a bum. He's never won a national championship. Do you know that, Tyson? We need to have higher standards. To then winning 7 in a row, finishing the season 23-8. As we look back and encapsulate what has happened in the regular season before they tip off play in the conference tournament tomorrow, what does Tyson Alger make so far of their first 31 games of the year?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm surprised you guys still aren't celebrating it in the victory of the boys in the boat. You know, that was only in like 1935,
which is a few years ago. Just a few years ago, yeah.
Bow down,
bow down. That was the time to be alive.
It's been a fascinating Oregon basketball season because last year, obviously, they go on that run through the Pac-12 tournament and then through the NCAA tournament, and it's all of a sudden the pitchforks are gone and it's Dana Altman's figured it back out. But when you really think of it, like, you know, the Ducks weren't consistently good last year until the end. And then this year, for like the first time in probably 3 or 4 years, they actually scorched through the non-conference route and they put together a list of some pretty quality wins. And it was one of the first times that they've gotten to the regular season in quite a while without kind of like the impending doom of you need to win X amount of games to be considered for the NCAA tournament. Like the Ducks did their work during the non-conference part of this season. They just ran into that wall kind of in late January, early February, where they lost 5 in a row. They lost a couple of pretty quality games at home as well too, and so it just kind of felt like a funk, and it was really easy to kind of go back to hey, Dana Altman's old, he's 66 years old, he's been here for 13 years, and you know you could kind of start to list all those things, and it kind of started to weigh heavier than hey, Dana Altman gets really good towards February and March. And lo and behold, after that 5-game skid was done, like we got right back to what works for Dana Altman. And during the 7-game streak here, where they've won 7 in a row, they capped it off with that win at Washington. Like this isn't a streak where the Ducks have gotten just like hot from 3 or something like that, where it's just maybe a little bit of luck. Like they haven't been shooting great in several weeks, but they're winning with defense, they're winning with rebounding, they're winning with second chance points, and it's a lot of those things that have typically come together during good Dana Altman years, and it's really centered around the play of like Nate Biddle, who I think it was kind of absurd that he was only 3rd team all Big Ten yesterday when that came out.
Yeah.
And then Jackson Shelstad as well too. You know, Shelstad can be a little bit streaky, but he's the type of player that I think, especially when you get into tournament time, if he gets hot, like really look out.
Well, it's interesting, Tyson. They're playing Indiana for the second time in like a week, and so that was actually a pretty good game down in Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people showed up for that one. Good environment. And now they gear up as they get ready for Indiana to kick off the Big Ten tournament tomorrow at 9 a.m. You mentioned Biddle. I agree with you. I don't know how he only got 3rd team. He carried this 23-8 Oregon team. He's been remarkable for them. If they can get him back, that would be huge. You mentioned Shelstad, which may be the answer here, but like if Biddle has his usual game, who is the wild card for Oregon that if they're going to make a run in this tournament, make some noise, maybe have a good NCAA tournament showing, who is the key player in your mind if it's not Nate Biddle for Oregon to do all of that?
Dude, honestly, it's KJ Evans. You know, he was a freshman last year who started a lot of games and kind of took a bit to find his footing. And he's one of those guys that this year has gone back to the bench, has really bought into kind of being that 6-man role. Oregon doesn't have a whole lot of size, and to be able to have a 6'9", 6'10" guy come off the bench and spell Biddle for a little bit, be able to pull down double-digit rebounds in short minutes, to be able to, I think he's 2 or 3 games in a row where he's at least close to double-digit points. It really kind of just reminds me, again, I hate to go down like the route of yesteryear, but every single time that the Ducks have had a pretty good NCAA tournament run, a lot of times it's been because somebody has kind of like swallowed their pride and adjusted to a bench role. I mean, like you can think of even like Jordan Bell and Chris Boucher in the 2016 and 2017 season. So I think being able to have that spark off the bench, to be able to have a guy that has a lot of size that can defend around the perimeter and inside, I think that's really important because Biddle's going to give you what Biddle's going to give you. But if there's ever a chance that he gets into foul trouble or, maybe Shellstad shots aren't falling, I really think Evans is the guy that can help carry this team.
It's interesting. We're talking with Tyson Alger, I-5 Corridor, covering the Northwest sports scene. Go give him a follow on Twitter at Tyson Alger and go subscribe to the I-5 Corridor where he covers the Ducks, Timbers, everything else going on in the local area. I don't want to get too big picture, but I am curious to ask you, Tyson, because you've been covering these teams for a long time. Like, we're a month away from Oregon nearly selling out Autzen Stadium for a spring football game that doesn't matter, but we know the amount of people that will be there, especially if it's a nice weather day. I'm just curious where your head's at on, and they did end the season with a nice crowd on senior night against Indiana, to Sprague's point.
That was a good crowd.
That was really good to see,
crowd.
but there's been a lot of moments this year where I'm turning on games, especially even early, where like when they were on that 16-3 run to start the season,
wins.
like, what? There's nobody here. Like, I'm an alum and I don't even know how to put my finger on it. I'm curious how you put your finger on it, and if the university has been able to figure out why is there such a missing link between the support of one sport and the other?
Yeah, it's if I had an answer to that question, I probably wouldn't be on at 7:30 with you guys this morning, guys. Like I'd have my
call up Rob, give Mullins a call, all right?
Because I mean, like that's truly been kind of the question. I think this is my 11th year during the Ducks, and outside of that nucleus with the Final Four group, like the attendance has always kind of been an issue. And I think some of it is college basketball is so much about the personalities of the coaches, and Dana Altman's one of the best coaches in the world, but I don't think he's ever going to be opening up like a comedy club or something like that sometime soon. He's not the most relatable guy out there, but also if you look at it, I can compare it to last year where, like the Ducks made the tournament and they kind of solved that problem, but they never really played any great games at home last season. If you're going to be bad all year and then turn it around right at the very end, that kind of sets a precedent of, do I really want to go drive 2 hours down to Eugene to watch a basketball game where they may or may not show up? So yeah, it's a bunch of things. I don't think it's the arena. A lot of people like to do this isn't MacArthur Court. It's we're 13 years into this stadium. I think that's kind of a moot point at this juncture, but I don't think football helps either, to be honest, because when you're a football team and the university obviously puts so much more resource into marketing football and to getting fans to those games and just kind of the level of expectation for football. If you buy a ticket to an Oregon football game, you kind of know what you're going to get. And for the last 10 years, it's kind of a toss-up what you're going to get with the basketball scene.
Which is interesting because his record would say, you're going to get. He's going to end up winning games. It's just
20
a matter
games,
of the season, I guess, when he starts doing that. And also, football's expensive. Can we just call a spade a spade? It's not cheap to go to a football game anymore. Yeah. And so how much money do you invest in football season versus hoops this year? I catch that on TV or listen to the radio call.
The one thing I was kind of surprised about this year, though, is I probably went to 5 Oregon basketball games this year. And the Big Ten fan base travels incredibly well for hoops, and that's something that I didn't remember at all for the Pac-12. I mean, even you had Rutgers fans showing up, you had Northwestern fans showing up, you had Indiana fans showing up, and it's where are these dudes coming from? Are they just coming out of the woods? Do we have a big Northwestern contingent of fans that live out here, or are people actually traveling for this thing? It was pretty mind blowing.
I know you do a lot of timber stuff, you do a lot of duck stuff, obviously at the corridor, but you're also a curious writer, which I'm interested here. Scott Rueck won the WCC yesterday. We talked about it at the top of the hour. I think you can make a pretty easy argument. He's the best basketball coach in Oregon State hoops history. Men or women, doesn't matter. His winning percentage, his conference title accolades, his tournament success, it's a layup, I think, in that argument. Are you at all dabbling with maybe writing something about Rueck and what they did?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of need to, right? This is a guy who everyone's going to stop watching their team for a year because you think they're going to be left for dead, and then you go out and make the NCAA tournament with a completely new roster. And, I mean, it was like you said, I don't think there's a better basketball coach in the state. There might not be a better coach in the state to be able to take a team that was so elite last year and to be able to at least replicate some of that, especially like so much of what they were good at last year was stuff that you talk about of like a veteran team, of chemistry, of knowing the system and all those sorts of things. For Ruick to be able to turn that around within like a year, I think that's one of the most impressive things that I've seen in this state.
Last one for you, because we do call you Timber Tyson on the show. Evander on the way out. I know that's old news at this point, but we haven't talked to you in a while. What do you make of the start of the year for the Timbers?
Yeah, it's kind of been a rough one because it's one thing to lose a player who was third in the MVP race last year, but they've been very injured to start the season. They're missing leading goal scorer Jonathan Rodriguez, who's going to be out for a few more weeks. Santiago Marino has missed a lot of games. Some of their defenders have missed games. So right now they're kind of a team that's just trying to survive until about mid-April or so. Like it's been kind of hard to find where their goals are coming from. They just lost a pretty dismal game down in Nashville. So this new guy, David DaCosta, can be exciting, but it's just a matter of who's going to be able to get him the ball. And right now that's something that, it's coming along. It's coming along, but I think it's going to be a lot of low-scoring soccer games until the Timbers get the full strength here.
This is why you go to the I-5 corridor. You want coverage on everything in the Northwest? This is where you find it. Tyson Alger, go give him a follow on Twitter, i5corridor.com. One of the few West Coast guests who's kind enough to wake up early in the morning, whether he has hockey or not the night before. Thankfully, no hockey last night, so he was spring as a chicken this morning. Tyson, we always enjoy the time, man. Enjoy watching conference tournaments, and I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Hey, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
There you go. Tyson Alger, the I-5 corridor, talking a little Oregon basketball, mixing in some Timbers talk and a little Scott Ruick conversation.
That's the I-5 corridor in a nutshell.
That's what we got right now. The Daily Ticker brought to you, as always, by Pelican Brewing. Break into Pelican's new Beak Breaker Mix Pack featuring their original Beak Breaker Double IPA and the new additions of Beak Breaker Tropical and Beak Breaker Hazy.
Wake the hell up.